Alrighty, guys, so the Agatha All Along Season 2 saga continues. We have been covering for a few months now the ups and downs of whether or not Agatha Season 2 is going to happen. First, we've gotten comments from Jack Schaefer, we've gotten multiple comments from Catherine Hahn, and of course Marvel, I think infamously now, has entered Agatha, or had entered rather, Agatha All Along to Emmys consideration, and I believe Golden Globes consideration as well, as not being a limited series anymore, which limited series meaning just, contained to one season, but now being labeled as Season 1, which seems to indicate that Agatha Season 2 is going to happen, which would make sense because Agatha All Along was one of the more critically well-received shows. And unlike shows like WandaVision, for example, which just didn't really have a reason to do a season 2 because it was just a pretty open and shut case of a single season, Agatha All Along very clearly seemed like it wanted to have a season 2, or at least have the story continue on in another fashion. But, I think season 2 seemed likely just because also, like I said, it was a well-received show, and it seemed like the viewership was going up throughout its entire run. So, recently, Patti LuPone, who played, I believe the character's name is Lilia, Lilia Calderu in Agatha All Along. She also appeared in WandaVision briefly as well. I believe. I could be wrong about that. No, I might be wrong about that. But anyways, she was speaking about WandaVision, which is why I got confused. And she gave a quote here that seems to pour some cold water on the idea that Agatha All Along is going to get a season 2. I'm going to explain why I still think Agatha season 2 is going to happen, but maybe now not in the way that we might have originally thought. So this is Patti LuPone, and this is her quote. Quote, Jack Schaefer, the creator, came into my trailer, and she said, Patti, I'm just here to tell you that Lilia is going to die. She died in episode 7 of Agatha All Along. And I went, but I wanted a second season. Schaefer said, I don't do second seasons. She said, they wanted me to do a second season of WandaVision, and I didn't. She said, there's too much to write, and so she does one-offs, and I'm really hoping and praying that someday I get to work with her again because she's magic. Haha, get it? Magic pun. Okay, so a couple of things to note here, right? Because at first I read this quote, and the first thing that jumped out to me is that, Patti LuPone says Agatha All Along doesn't get a second season, but not because it's not going to get a second season, but because her character died. So maybe, really what she meant was, I'm not appearing in Agatha Season 2 because the character is dead. But then you read the second half of the quote, and the second half is honestly what's more interesting to me. The second half is that Jack Schaefer does not seem to be willing to do any second season. And also, there's a little nugget in there that apparently, WandaVision was going to get a second season, which, I don't know. Maybe Marvel wanted to do some kind of follow-up, but then I feel like they had plans for Elizabeth Olsen very early on to be a part of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and maybe the plan was to do WandaVision Season 2 afterwards with her and White Vision, and maybe she was originally going to survive Doctor Strange 2. I don't know. Plans may have changed. So I feel like the WandaVision Season 2 maybe isn't as big of a headline as we might think. It's not, it's not as consequential, I think, at the end of the day. And so I think really what we want to hone in on here is the fact that, Patti LuPone says Agatha All Along Season 2 is not going to happen because Jack Schaefer just doesn't do Season 2. Here's the thing. I think, and whether or not you think this is right or wrong, it's totally fair, totally up to you. I still think regardless of if Jack Schaefer comes in and returns to do Agatha All Along Season 2, Agatha All Along Season 2 is going to happen. I think for a couple of reasons. Number one, for as good of a showrunner as Jack Schaefer is, because I love WandaVision. I think WandaVision is one of the greatest things the MCU has ever done, and she was behind that. She was amazing. She was just she did a great job shepherding that series. And I didn't love Agatha All Along, especially the middle parts, but the ending really picked it up. And she knows how to tell a good story. So I would be sad to hear if Jack Schaefer didn't come back for an Agatha All Along Season 2. I don't think, though, that Jack Schaefer is the sole reason that Agatha All Along, and I'm not talking about WandaVision, just her whole body of work, but I'm just talking about Agatha All Along specifically. I'm not sure that she's the only reason that a show revolving around the character of Agatha Harkness could work. In fact, I'm kind of convinced that maybe even the second season needs to go in a different direction because the second season can't rely on some of the things that she likes to do. Jack Schaefer is very much an episodic television show maker, which is totally fine. It's great. It worked great in WandaVision, and it worked pretty well in certain parts in Agatha All Along. She's very episodic, right? And what she also likes to do a lot is subvert genre. So she likes to, in each individual episode, she likes to play a parody on something and all that kind of stuff. She's done 2 seasons now, WandaVision and Agatha All Along, and that's really been one of the calling cards for Jack Schaefer. And I think with this second chapter now, if they do an Agatha All Along Season 2, it's going to be a different story, right? It's not, you can't really go back to that well anymore unless they do something really weird. And at that point, maybe it just feels really forced. At this point, we have Agatha, Ghost Agatha, and Billy looking for Tommy, right? And that seems more of an adventure plot or something different. Not to say that Jack Shaver couldn't do a good job with that. Of course she could. She's a great storyteller. But I think that just by saying Jack Shafer is not going to return for Agatha All Along Season 2, which, by the way, people change their minds all the time. I don't remember exactly who said this, but there have been many directors who are like, I'm going to retire. Just kidding. I'm back. I think even Quentin Tarantino has gone back and forth on this many, many times. Different people are just like, I'm retiring. I'm unretiring. I think Jim Carrey was going to retire at one point. Then he did Sonic 3, and he's probably going to be back for Sonic 4. So, people say things, right? And not to say that Jack Shaver doesn't believe this in her heart, but, what if she gets inspiration for a really good idea for Agatha All Along Season 2? Because I get it. It takes a long time to write. I get it. But if she gets that spark, who's to say that it doesn't motivate her to say, I'm going to do it. And I think that Agatha All Along Season 2 is going to happen. I think that Agatha All Along Season 2, whether it's in the Multiverse Saga, Mutant Saga, whatever, can just fit in the MCU in this world, And there are going to be ties. One of the next shows coming up after Daredevil Born Again, Ironheart, Wonder Man is going to be the Vision show. And so I'm sure that the Vision show will have at least some ramifications that would lead into an Agatha All Along Season 2. And maybe even Agatha Harkness herself and Billy show up in the Vision series, which we've been speculating on. So, to me, I get it. I'd be sad if Jack Shafer didn't return for Agatha All Along Season 2. I don't think it's the end of the world, and I don't think by any means it means that Agatha All Along Season 2 is not going to happen. I still am very much on the side at this point that Agatha All Along Season 2 will happen, and I'm not even someone who loved the show. I like the show a decent bit, but I think that it's just, you can't ignore the fact that this show was one of the more successful Disney Plus shows that the MCU has ever made. And I think, honestly, Kevin Feige might be a little foolish if he doesn't greenlight a Season 2. We'll see. But I have my doubts that even if Jack Shafer leaves, that the show is not going to happen. So, guys, what do you think about these comments from Patty Lapone? Do you think that this confirms Agatha All Along Season 2 is not going to happen? Or do you think it's still going to happen anyways, even if she doesn't return to be the showrunner? Let me know in the comments down below.